My brothers and sisters, today I want to talk about a disease that doesn't show up on medical scans, but it eats away at hearts every single day. It's a disease that has destroyed families, broken friendships, and turned communities against each other. It is the disease of, I'm better than him. This sickness begins silently. It creeps into the heart when a person starts comparing, when they begin to look down on others because of wealth, knowledge, appearance, or status. You see someone struggling, and instead of helping them, you feel a strange satisfaction. At least I'm not like him. That, my brothers and sisters, is pride disguised as confidence. It's arrogance wrapped in self-righteousness. Remember, the very first sin committed was born out of this disease. When one said, I am better than him, it wasn't just a statement. It was rebellion, it was arrogance, and it was the beginning of downfall. How many times do we repeat those same words in our hearts, perhaps not out loud, but in our attitude, in our tone, in our silent judgment of others? My brothers and sisters, the disease of, I'm better than him, begins with a distorted understanding of self-worth. When a person starts to believe that their value is greater than someone else's simply because of certain qualities, achievements, or possessions, it is a spiritual disease, one that hides deep within the heart, quietly corrupting the soul until it manifests in words, attitudes, and actions. Unlike physical illnesses that can be seen or measured, this one disguises itself under layers of confidence, success, and even religiosity. A person suffering from it may appear strong, intelligent, or accomplished on the outside, but inside, they are eaten by arrogance, the belief that they are somehow above others. At its core, this disease is not about success or ambition, it is about forgetfulness, forgetting that all blessings, whether wealth, knowledge, or beauty, come from the Almighty. When someone begins to take credit for their gifts and uses them to look down upon others, that is when pride takes root. It is a subtle but deadly shift in the heart. A person starts to measure worth by external standards, saying to themselves, I work harder than him, or I am more educated, or I pray better. Slowly, humility disappears, replaced by the toxic thought that others are less deserving. This mindset deceives the person into thinking they are closer to perfection, but in truth they are drifting further from sincerity. The one afflicted with this disease cannot see their own faults because arrogance blinds them. They begin to justify their behavior, ignore correction, and even feel offended when reminded to be humble. What makes this disease particularly dangerous is that it often hides behind good deeds. A person might serve others, teach, or give charity, but deep down they may seek recognition, thinking, look at how much I do compared to them. The act itself may be noble, but the intention becomes tainted, and that is how pride poisons even good actions. The most alarming part of this disease is how easily it spreads. Once a person starts believing they are superior, it affects their relationships. They treat others with condescension, dismiss their opinions, and lose empathy for those they see as beneath them. This destroys unity, breeds resentment, and isolates the person spiritually. The disease of, I am better than him, transforms hearts of light into hearts of stone. It is not a disease of ignorance but of arrogance, a sickness that makes people forget that the one who truly measures greatness is not us, but the one who created us all equal, testing each of us with different blessings and struggles. The roots of the disease of, I'm better than him, lie deep within the human ego, that subtle voice inside which constantly seeks recognition, praise, and superiority. It begins when a person allows pride to settle in their heart, convincing themselves that their talents, intelligence, or achievements are entirely self-made. This illusion of self-sufficiency disconnects the soul from gratitude. Instead of seeing blessings as gifts, one begins to view them as personal trophies. Pride becomes the seed, and from that seed grows the poisonous tree of arrogance, spreading its branches through every aspect of life. Ego is not always loud or obvious. Sometimes it hides behind humility that is performed rather than practiced. A person may speak softly, dress modestly, or act kind outwardly, yet deep within they feel a sense of superiority. That quiet thought that says, at least I'm not like them. This is how pride disguises itself, cloaked in false humility. When left unchecked, this inner whisper grows louder until it begins to shape one's identity. The person starts to believe their way is the only way, their understanding the only truth, their position the only one that matters. Pride also feeds on comparison. It thrives when we measure our worth against others. Instead of focusing on self-improvement, a proud heart seeks validation by finding faults in others. It's easier to feel better about oneself when someone else seems lower. This is why arrogance blinds the heart. It makes a person obsessed with others' shortcomings while completely overlooking their own. The eyes of the arrogant are sharp when judging others, but blind when facing the mirror of self-reflection. Such blindness is spiritual in nature. It darkens the heart, preventing sincere repentance or growth. This disease takes root early, sometimes in small moments. It may begin in childhood when one is praised excessively without being taught gratitude. It may grow through success that isn't grounded in humility or through knowledge that isn't guided by compassion. Each unchecked moment of self-importance waters the root of pride until it becomes part of one's character. And once it takes root, it's not easy to remove. A person trapped by arrogance finds it hard to accept advice, apologize, or recognize their dependence on others and on the Almighty. The heart that once could have been soft and receptive becomes hardened, resisting truth and humility alike. Such is the root of this disease. It is not in the mind but in the heart, where ego thrives and humility dies. The disease of "I'm better than him" carries consequences far more destructive than they first appear. It begins as a thought, a feeling of superiority that may seem harmless, but over time it transforms into behavior that corrupts relationships, communities, and the soul itself. When arrogance settles in, it becomes a barrier between a person and sincerity. The heart that once could feel compassion now struggles to empathize. The eyes that once saw others as equals now look down upon them. Pride distances people not only from one another but from the mercy of the Almighty, for arrogance and humility cannot coexist in the same heart. One of the first consequences of this disease is the erosion of peace within oneself. A proud person constantly compares, competes, and craves validation. They are never truly content because their sense of worth depends on being above others. This constant need to prove superiority drains inner tranquility. Instead of finding joy in gratitude and service, they live in silent competition, feeling threatened by the success or goodness of others. This inner unrest grows into bitterness, jealousy, and resentment, creating turmoil that no amount of worldly success can soothe. In relationships, the damage is even more visible. Arrogance destroys harmony between friends, spouses, colleagues, and families. The person afflicted with this disease struggles to listen, to admit mistakes, or to treat others with respect. They speak as if their opinion is the only one that matters, dismissing others as inferior. Over time, people begin to distance themselves, leaving the arrogant person isolated. Pride builds walls where there should be bridges. It breeds conflict, ruins trust, and turns love into competition. Even in moments meant for kindness, the proud heart seeks attention rather than connection. At the level of society, this disease fractures unity. Communities crumble when members start ranking themselves by wealth, knowledge, or background. The moment people begin to think we are better than them, compassion fades and injustice takes root. Instead of lifting one another, individuals begin to pull each other down. Such arrogance divides hearts and weakens the moral fabric that holds society together. Spiritually, the consequences are even more severe. The proud person begins to believe they do not need guidance or forgiveness. Their prayers become mechanical, their charity becomes self-serving, and their worship loses sincerity. They may appear righteous, but the heart is veiled. This is the ultimate loss, when the disease of "I'm better than him" distances a person from the one who values humility above all else, leaving them empty despite all they possess. The disease of "I'm better than him" does not always appear in grand gestures or obvious arrogance. Often it hides in the smallest of moments, in the quiet corners of our daily lives where we least expect it. It can show up in the way we speak to someone who has less than us, in the way we treat someone we consider uneducated, or even in how we look at someone who has made a mistake. It may come out when we mock a person's appearance, question someone's accent, or feel embarrassed to be seen with someone of lower status. These subtle behaviors may seem harmless, but they expose a deep sickness within the heart, the belief that we are somehow superior to others. This disease reveals itself in the home, where one spouse might look down on the other for earning less or for not meeting certain expectations. It appears among siblings, when one constantly reminds the other of their shortcomings. It shows up in workplaces when people treat subordinates with disrespect or take pride in positions as if titles determine worth. It even creeps into gatherings of faith and learning, where someone might feel spiritually superior, thinking, "I pray more, I know more, I am better." This mindset can appear in anyone, rich or poor, educated or uneducated, religious or worldly, because it feeds on comparison, and comparison is something every human struggles with. In our interactions, the disease is often masked as advice or opinion. A person might correct another not to help, but to show they know better. Someone may give charity not out of compassion, but to display generosity. Even a kind word can be poisoned if the intention behind it is self-praise. The tragedy is that this disease doesn't always look ugly on the outside. It may wear the mask of confidence, knowledge, or success, while inside, the heart becomes detached from humility. Social media has made this disease even more widespread. People compare their lives, achievements, and appearances, feeling either proud or ashamed based on the illusion of others' perfection. The thought, "I'm better than him," or "I'm worse than her," both come from the same root, the need to measure worth through others instead of through sincerity and purpose. Everyday arrogance, though small in appearance, builds a habit that reshapes one's character. The more often we feed it, the more natural it feels. Soon we begin to look down on others without realizing it, and that is when the disease becomes truly dangerous. When it becomes part of who we are. True honor and greatness are not measured by wealth, position, beauty, or status, but by humility, sincerity, and righteousness. When a person realizes that every blessing they have is a trust from the Almighty, they begin to see others not as competitors but as companions on the same journey. The disease of "I'm better than him" fades only when the heart accepts that all human beings are equal in their creation, and that no one's value lies in outward appearances or temporary success. What truly elevates a person is the purity of their heart, the truth in their intentions, and the kindness in their actions. Humility is not about lowering oneself in weakness. It is about recognizing one's place with gratitude. The humble person does not deny their blessings. They acknowledge them but never use them to belittle others. They understand that whatever they possess could have been given to someone else just as easily. Such a person walks gently on the earth, speaks kindly and treats every soul with respect, whether that soul is wealthy or poor, educated or uneducated, known or unknown. Their dignity comes from character, not comparison. Sincerity too is a mark of true greatness. It purifies actions from the need for recognition and removes arrogance from the heart. A sincere person does not serve, speak or act to appear righteous. They do it because they seek goodness for its own sake. This sincerity allows them to see others with compassion rather than judgment. When someone falls, they help instead of mock. When someone succeeds, they celebrate instead of envy. Such people lift others without losing themselves. And that is what makes them honorable in the eyes of both people and the Almighty. Righteousness ties humility and sincerity together. It is not about perfection, but about striving to do good even when no one is watching. The righteous heart remains soft, forgiving, and self-aware. It never claims superiority because it knows that every soul has its own test, its own story, and its own struggles unseen by others. The one who appears weak today may be stronger in faith than those who judge them. The one who is quiet and unnoticed may be far more beloved to the Creator than the one who boasts of their goodness. In truth, honor belongs not to those who rise above others, but to those who raise others with them. The greatest hearts are not those filled with pride, but those emptied of ego, making room for compassion, mercy, and gratitude to flourish.